it's Biddy Penny, and today I am working with the lovely fall kit from the Not2ShabbyShop. And I am going to make a 6x6 mini album with this kit. When I saw this paper and everything, it was just the first thing I wanted to do. So this was actually the first project I made. So here I'm using a nice heavyweight chipboard, and I'm cutting 2 pieces down to 6x6 and 1 piece down to 1 inch by 6 inches. Now I'm grabbing a couple of supplies from my stash. I needed 2 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper to cover my album and connect all the pieces together. I'm also using some double-sided tape to do this. So I'm running it down the 11-inch side, and I'm going to burnish that down and then connect these 2 pieces together to have one really large piece of paper. And this way I have plenty of room to make my album cover. So the next thing that I'm going to do is kind of lay things out and see how I want them to be pieced together. And then I put double-sided tape, as you can see, all over these pieces. Now I laid the center of my spine down in the center of the fold of those 2 pieces of paper. You can also add a little bit of scoring along these lines if you wanted to, or like I'm using a T-ruler here, and then I'm also going to use a scrap piece of this chipboard just to give myself a little bit of spacing. You just want to make sure you have enough spacing there for your book to fold. So I did that on both sides, and now I'm creasing down here so that it helps all the paper fold over the sides. I'm also just making sure every place is ready to fold. Now I'm cutting off the corners at an angle, and I will fold these pieces over. Having that score all around the edges really does help this part of the fold for sure. So after I get these where I want them, then I'm cutting out the corners, as you can see here. And these little corners were defined when I did the fold over. And now I'm going to bring in more tape and more glue, and the cover is pretty much done, except for, of course, we're going to add some design of the pattern paper to the cover as well. So you guys, the construction of this album was super simple overall. I would say this is the most complicated part, and it's really not complicated at all. And the construction of this album does not take long either. So you could put one of these together. I think I put this entire thing together, had it decorated in an hour and a half, and it makes such a great gift. So here I'm using a scrap piece of my paper, and I'm going to go ahead and put that down for the center spine on the inside of my album, because actually this is all going to be exposed in my final design. You'll see as we go here. But I'm not doing any kind of sewing or adhering the book down here in the spine. Instead, I'm just hinging the pages together. And of course, I'm going to show you guys how I did that. So here again, I'm bringing in the bone folder and just making sure that all of my creases fold. Now, let's get into this kit. I do know that this kit sold out. I'm so sorry, guys. But if you have this kit, you can make one of these. And if you don't have this kit, maybe you have last month's kit, you could still make one of these. It's just when I saw these scenery pages, the first thing that popped in my head was mini album. So that's what inspired this whole project. And so here I'm just laying them out and deciding where I want them. Now I did cut this down to 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. So I just want a little bit of a border showing behind it. And again, I will tape it down. I find that using plenty of double-sided tape plus glue is the way to go when you're making mini albums. And you want to make sure that the center, the whole piece is really well glued down so that nothing like bends or bubbles. All right, so now let's get into the pages. So I cut my paper to 12 by 6, or 6 by 12. That's how I should say it. 6 by 12. I brought in 3 different colors that I thought really went well with the paper pad. And I did 2 of each page. Okay, now I'm grabbing this sheet from the paper pad and I'm cutting this to 1 by 6. And I'm going to need enough of these. These are going to be our binding. So on each one of these, I'm scoring it at 1/2 inch. And then they are going to connect our 6 by 12 pieces that are folded in half. So they fit perfectly within, of course, a 6 by 6 album. Because of the way that I'm binding these together, I didn't need the cover of my album to be larger than my pages. So this was just a really great way to put this album together. And I will tell you that I was inspired by Rosa Kelly scrapbooking. You guys, if you are interested in albums at all, I would definitely recommend you check out Rosa Kelly. Her tutorials are just so straightforward and easy to follow, and she does a lot of stuff like in an hour, and that's my kind of gal. Like, let's turn out a mini album in an hour. I'm a fast crafter. That's the way I like to operate. So definitely, if you're a fast crafter or a card maker and you're like, I don't know about all these mini albums, you can make it with the supplies that you have. And it's so much fun, and it doesn't have to take a long time. All right, so you could see how I adhered those down. And now I did put another strip of paper there in the center since that's going to be completely exposed. And now I'll show you. So I'm just cleaning up my edges here because I didn't hinge those all perfectly together. And so I just cleaned up the edges a little bit. And now what I'm doing is deciding what's going to show first, blue or pink. I had a hard time deciding. Now the piece that I'm going to adhere down, again, I'm going to use a lot of double-sided tape. I'm going to use glue, all the things, because this is what holds your pages in the album. So it's important that you really go to town on the tape and the glue. I definitely find that adding glue on top of my tape really helps me if I need to pull anything up or realign. So as you can see here, you're only going to see those 1-inch strips in between every other page. All right, now I'm going to work on the cover of the album. So I wanted 1 strip to go on the spine here to cover up that bridged piece of paper that we made, the large sheet originally. And then now I just get to have fun. So I'm just taking random different pieces of the paper, and here I'm lining this up to put my thumb hole, because I tend to always punch my thumb hole not in the center. So I've started doing that hack for myself where I find the center first and then punch in the center of that. I'm using all these different scraps to make different tuck spots and add interest to this mini album. The stencil came in the kit this month, and I am using that to ink blend here and just add more interest to these plain pages. And stencils are just so fabulous for this in mini albums. I really love always having some ink blended stencil pages in my mini albums, and that one was a lot of fun. Here I decided to cover this whole sheet with a piece of patterned paper, and I just keep working this mini album. As far as I just go page by page and spread by spread, adding different details. I did bring in the ephemera, and for a few pieces like these two, I backed them on a heavyweight cardstock. It's a 120-pound heavyweight cardstock because I want these to actually be tuck spots. So I had to make sure that they could hold a photo and that they wouldn't get damaged. So that's what I'm doing with these two, is I'm gluing them down to the heavyweight cardstock and then fussy cutting them back out again. And they turned out so adorable. I just really love the color palette of this kit, the softness that it has, but it's definitely crunchy fall, and it's cozy, and it just makes me think of home, which even after COVID, I'm still happy just to be home sometimes. So I think this kit's fabulous. Now, as you can tell, I didn't just glue everywhere on these. I was very strategic about where I laid my glue down so that I could then go back in and tuck in photos. I really enjoy mini albums as I get back into memory keeping, because it's just not as intimidating as like a huge big scrapbook album with 12 by 12 pages that you're trying to fill. Plus, another thing I like about mini albums is that you get to feel the texture of the paper. In a scrapbook, they're beautiful, I love them, but they're in plastic sleeves, and I really like to feel everything. And so I really like that mini albums don't have the plastic sleeves. All right, guys, so this is my final decorated album. Now, obviously, I didn't decorate this album with pictures. I just set it up so that I could give it as a gift so that someone else can use their pictures. And I'm just going to kind of show you close-ups. I did have some photo mats in my stash, which I went ahead and threw in here. So these right here aren't a part of the kit. They were just a part of my stash, but it'll at least give you ideas about how to use them. And you can find those over at Genevieve Designs. They're a printable. So this is how it came together. See how the ephemera became like a fun little tuck spot for a photo? I just love that. You could put 2 in here, or you can cross it like that. I put a label on this one. I just think this would be perfect for someone's fall bucket list, or if it's just their favorite season, they could write a little bit, take a few Instagram photos, print them out, put them in here. It could be an inspiration journal, whatever. The sky's the limit with what you put in your mini album. It doesn't have to be strictly memory keeping. I hope you guys will give this a try. I promise it's really easy to do, and I know it would just be a very different kind of project. So here I took the pattern paper and made corners again to hold in these photo mats. And I did put photo mats of different kinds, like 4x6, 3x4. These are square, 4-inch squares. So depending on how someone wants to print their photos, they've got lots of options. And that is it, you guys. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this project, and make sure to go over and check out Not Too Shabby. Talk to you later. Bye.